Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And greetings, inspired listeners. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2016, if you can believe that. And whether you're just getting your day started or winding down into your evening, we just want to say welcome. Thanks for listening. This is Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio, the voice of consciousness. I am your co-host, Mark Lanehart, the Intuitive Prospector. And if you're ready to explore and discover and have a great soul adventure in 2016, please visit me online at marklanehart.com, or you can internet search the Intuitive Prospector, or you can visit me at my new prospecting healing studio here in Seattle, Washington. I promise this is going to be a year full of much what I call spiritual awesomeness, with a lot of expos, a lot of readings, a lot of hikes. And along with me today and every Wednesday is my good friend, best American psychic colleague, and co-host, Kim Thalken, founder of Love First in Encino, California. Hello, my friend. How is your Wisdom Wednesday coming along?
Good afternoon, Mark, and all of our inspired listeners and our guest for today. So far, so good. I'm just having a little trouble here getting my headset connected, but aside from that, all is well. And I'm excited to be here, and I can't wait to talk to our guests. We've got some great questions that have come through, and it's going to be a good show.
Fantastic. Well, you sound good even without your headset. So let's get right into the show, because there's a lot of topics that we want to cover today with our very special guest. I am very excited for this guest. I've learned a lot from our special guest that we're going to be bringing up here in a couple minutes. But before we get to that, Kim, let's talk about what's going on with Inspired Living in 2016 and the sponsorship opportunities that we're now offering to be a part of our growing show. Let's talk about how if you're listening to the show live right now, that you can interact with us over on social media. And if you do miss a live show, how can they listen to an encore show and finish it up with our January positive affirmation?
That's right, Mark. Our listeners can interact with us on social media at all times. In fact, we love getting to know our community. You can find us on Facebook under Inspired Living Radio, Twitter and Instagram under Inspired for Us, Google Plus under Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. And you can interact with us. You can send through your questions for our guests or for us. If you've got questions for us too, we're always happy to take them. And that's where you can find us. If you missed the show live, you can also find us on demand with our archives that are listed on OMTimes Radio. You can catch us on Podbean, SoundCloud. Also, Mark, I know you've done a great job of including all of the shows on your site as well, marklanehart.com, Vimeo, and YouTube. So there's a lot of ways to interact with us and to keep in touch with us. We're still taking questions for this show. If you'd like to send those through on social media as well, we'll be sure to bring those live to air. And with our inspired affirmation for the month, we have the affirmation of, I have unshakable determination and willpower to make 2016 my most successful year ever. So that's a good one. And Mark and I, we talked about what we thought would be a great way to start off the year and kind of put things in motion for us with that affirmation.
That's right. And we're going to be saying that all month long for the month of January. We found, studies have shown, science has shown, if you do something for 30 days and you use that positive affirmation and you really do believe that 2016 is going to be your best year ever, then you can really make that happen. So with that, let's get into our special guest today, because I am very excited for today's special guest, Eamonn Downey, who I first met 2 years ago, Kim, when I first traveled to England to study mediumship at the world-renowned Arthur Findlay College. Now, I was already nervous to go over and study in a completely different country. And Eamonn was teaching the advanced section of the course. They had a beginning section, a medium section, and an advanced section. And I figured, well, I've flown all this way to go to this college. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the advanced section of this course. And after that first day, I was really saying, boy, what the heck did I get myself into? But I'll tell you what, Spirit knew what I needed, and they made sure that Eamonn was the guy I was to learn and mentor under. And I'm so grateful and humble as his teachings and his instructions put me on a much deeper spiritual path of working with spirit, mediumship, metaphysics, the science behind it. I'm very big into science as well, and so it was an instant connection. But the one thing that Eamonn also taught me was about healing and feeling when working with spirit, and something that I'm very much appreciative of. And it has been a major influence on the work that I'm now doing for spirit and my own spiritual practice here in Seattle, Washington. So a little bit more about Eamonn Downey, and you can find more about Eamonn at eamondowney.com. That's EAMONN. His last name is Downey, DOWNEY.com. And Eamonn is an international lecturer of metaphysical subjects, and he has filled workshops and presentation venues in many European countries and in the U.S. for almost 30 years, motivating and empowering people with his concepts delivered with deep comprehensions and a savvy sense of humor. I can validate all of that because I have not only studied with him in England, but I have also traveled to New Jersey to study with him last year. And he's a delightful and fascinating speaker. He's well known for his contemporary theories on the evolving human consciousness and his interpretation skills of intuitive and energetic perception. Eamonn is an officiant of the British Spiritual National Union, SNU. His outstanding teaching ability, combined with over 30 years of experience, 30 years, has earned him the Advanced Teaching Award from the SNU, where he also holds a certificate of recognition for public speaking and demonstrating mediumship. And I have seen both live, and he is fantastic in platform mediumship. He's a course organizer and tutor at the world-renowned Arthur Findlay College. He also teaches in the United States on the East Coast, and I think he said that he also teaches at a school in Sweden, and we'll bring him on to talk about that. But he's also a qualified healer with the National Federation of Spiritual Healers. Eamonn has recently released his second book, and it's called They Send Their Love, which is Memoirs and Message of a Modern Medium. And we're going to be talking about that on today's show, about modern mediumship, the discipline of working with spirit, the health of being a medium and working with spirit, and the science behind that. But his book is really to help achieve a greater sense of They Send Their Love, of that we are never separated from anything, especially spirit, knowing that there are always some essence of guidance and guardianship that is eternally available to us to empower us, enlighten us, and most importantly, heal us. And I have to say that he not only has the 2 books now, but he also has a series of 4 CDs, which are available to purchase from One Voice Music. I own 2 of them, and I actually use his Sweet Surrender meditation CD almost every day. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome Eamonn Downey to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
So
thank you for a generous introduction, Mark.
Oh, it's all of it. Everything I said is true, and I'm just grateful that you have come on the show to talk about this and really just share your background and your book and everything that you've done in 30 years with the inspired listeners out there all around the world, because I think that from today's show they can really gain some much knowledge when it comes to metaphysics and the science of working with spirit. So we have a couple minutes till we go to our first break, but Eamonn, if you don't mind, just give us a little background about your work and how you got into this, and just tell the listening audience a little bit more about yourself.
Mm-hmm. I often call myself the reluctant medium because raised Catholic, it was a subject matter that was never discussed or anywhere near my waking consciousness. But I used to be a race jockey, racing on the flat in England and in Ireland, when this awareness suddenly came into my life, and I dismissed it first of all, and I kept getting certain nudges from that power called spirit for me to keep looking at it. And I'm glad that I did, because although it was a million miles from who I used to be, it really has defined me and my life, as you said, for more than 30 years now. So I was the reluctant medium simply because it just wasn't part of my upbringing.
Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm sure, having come from a very strict Catholic background, and having had my own personal experiences coming from a Christian background, I've felt not completely welcomed in that community, after having pursued this path. So I'm sure that might have been difficult at times.
Yeah, it was, and especially because European Catholicism is much stricter than American Catholicism. American Catholicism is much more liberal. And ironically, some of the first clients that I worked with when I first came to New Jersey were priests and nuns.
Oh, wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Yeah. But they were gracious and lovely to work with.
Very good. Eamonn, that is our signal that we're heading to break here. We'll be back in 2 minutes with our guest, Eamonn Downey, speaking about the world of spirit. Stay with us. That's right.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. Please visit lovefirst.info. That's LOVEFIRST.info for more information. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, seat-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim and our special guest today, Eamonn Downey. Thank you so much for being with us, Eamonn. Before we went on break, you were talking to us about the challenges of growing up with disability in a strict Catholic household, and that some of your first clients were priests and nuns. That's really something.
Yeah, it was a little scary.
I can imagine.
When you're speaking to a priest about their own loved ones communicating from spirit, seemed to defy everything that I thought that Catholics and Catholic priests believed. And I initiated a development circle in the New Jersey area with a couple of nuns who would attend the mediumship development circle regularly.
So they were actually looking to develop themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they wanted to know what this skill called mediumship, or this ability called mediumship, was about. And they were so open-minded about it.
Well, that must have been a beautiful thing to witness and to be a part of, and to help facilitate for them on their own path to see things a little differently than they've known.
Certainly, it was. They also wanted to develop their healing ability as well as their intuition, but they were very, very interested in the mediumship side as well. And I want to thank them because they taught me how to relax my anxiety of how Catholicism really viewed this skill that I was now practicing and tutoring upon.
So they were help teaching you in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting how that works. So, Eamonn, you do a lot of work worldwide. Talk to us a little bit about all the work that you're doing. I see you've got a very busy schedule over in Europe and here in the States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work for a school in Switzerland. Not Sweden, as Mark had said. I just imagine my Swiss boss saying Sweden.
I knew it was an S country.
Yeah, Swaziland. And they are a very formative school called the Feng Shui School, or they call it Feng Shui School of Switzerland. But they cover all different branches of metaphysics. Yes, from feng shui to Chinese astrology, face reading, and then all the subjects that I tutor. And they are beautiful to work for. Then I also work in countries like Germany, Holland, Denmark. So, yeah, there's lots of countries, as well as the good old US of A, who's been a great friend to me and in many ways given me my life for the last 25 years.
Oh, isn't that beautiful to hear? Well, how nice. Mm-hmm. Well, we're glad you're here. And I hope that I get to study from you too one of these days, as Mark speaks so highly of you. You talk a little bit about contemporary mediumship, like mediumship of today. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about that. I'm really interested in hearing what that's about and maybe how mediumship has shifted over the years.
Yeah, I was very fortunate when I first started developing mediumship to be in the company at the Arthur Findlay Colleges, some of the post-war great mediums of the United Kingdom. So I was part of that, the tail end of the physical phenomena years to do with ectoplasm and the manifestation of spirit as seen by the naked eye, which really from the 60s and definitely through the 70s became a much more subjective skill, which then gained the moniker called mental mediumship. And sadly, that's been taken a bit too literally, meaning that we then process the information from spirit through our own logical mind or anything to do with our thinking sense. And I don't believe that that is how mediumship should be done. When it was called mental mediumship, it's really through the spirit mind, us as an eternal intelligence. And what frustrated me was that there was too much of the medium's personality involved in the information, which would then get too involved and too misinterpreted how the medium perceived it, instead of just allowing their own spirit mind, their own spirit intelligence to receive information and relay it as verbatim as possible, as spirit wish it to be relayed, more than a simile of who they are. And sadly, I've seen this beautiful skill of mediumship diluted because of this misinterpretation and how it then became trained in this way. And I'm trying to, in a way, bring it back to much more of a phenomena based on the intelligence and the energetic intelligence, how spirit wish it to be, more than how the mediums are getting too embellished with it.
Ah, I see. Okay. Very interesting. So now you teach certain skills that that would teach a medium how to do more spiritual mediumship than mental mediumship.
Yeah, exactly that. It is. We've got to remember that we are working with our higher consciousness when we are working as mediums. So no thought process of an analytical, logical perception is needed. And I teach people how to surrender that part of us so that we are connected into our own higher consciousness and we are perceiving and relaying it through that faculty, so that nothing is coming back to our own physical senses, that we are keeping it in a purer way, just as spirit are wishing to relay it, because they're always interacting with their loved ones. It's just that sadly, as we have evolved in the last few decades, people seem to be tuned out to the presence of spirit. And so mediumship is to try and reenact that literal relationship that is perpetually going on between the discarnate and the incarnate, and to try and relay it as purely as we possibly can, as spirit wish it to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so beautifully said. That was very nicely said. Eamonn, we do have a question that's come in from one of our listeners, and perhaps this would be a beautiful time for us to experience what spiritual mediumship is, as they would like to be able to connect with a sister that has passed. We've got about 4 minutes. Is that something that we can do in the 4 minutes?
Sure.
This is from our listener. Her name is Honey, and her sister who has passed in the last couple of years, named Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The question is how she can communicate with Elizabeth directly.
Well, I think she was hoping to receive messages from Elizabeth.
Yeah. No, that's not what I do in this situation, because because I'm not demonstrating my mediumship today. I'm really discussing it.
Okay.
Only because I take my work very seriously, and it's a very sacred thing. And I never do mediumship over the phone or via Skype. It has to be in a one-on-one private situation. And so that is an agreement that I have with Spirit, because mediumship isn't just about information. It is as much about the energy that Spirit are creating for the recipient in that private situation.
Okay, we definitely want to honor that, and we appreciate the discipline behind that and the sacredness for sure.
Yeah.
I think one thing that the listeners would love to learn is maybe how they can recognize when their loved ones are around them. You've mentioned that over the last couple of decades we aren't able to do that. We don't recognize it anymore, things like that. It would be really lovely. We've got a couple of minutes before we head into break. Just, I guess, some initial steps or techniques that people can use or would help them in their awareness when their loved ones are around.
Sure. Well, mediumship is a relationship between them and us. They are working hard on their part of it. And I think that we have to match them in effort. Instead of just waiting for a signal, a sign from them, are you there, are you not there? We have to discipline our own physical mind and our physical senses by relaxing them regularly so that our logical mind isn't totally in control. Because when it is, and it is for so many people every day, then anything outside of our physical range we're not aware of. So what I recommend is for people to learn to sit in the silencing of their physical senses, that mind chatter, that emotional compulsive behavior, and learn to find a stillness and a quietness within themselves that will help them to then feel that higher frequency presence of their loved ones.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Eamonn. We're going to go to break right now. When we come back, we're going to learn some more about how we can be mindful when our loved ones are around.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide, are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Today's special guest, Eamonn Downey, joining us live from the East Coast. I think you said, Eamonn, that you're in Florida. I know you travel all around, and you're always on the move. I was talking to Eamonn before we went live on the air, and I'm trying to recruit him to come to the West Coast at some point to add to his travel, so he can teach some of us on the West Coast. I know, Kim, you would sign up for a workshop and come up and join me and learn under Eamonn.
Oh, absolutely! You've got me as a confirmed student.
Yay!
He's like, I don't want to travel. No,
No.
that's what he's really saying. No, and also want to just give a shout out to our inspired listeners. Thank you for your questions. We always appreciate your questions. So, was it Honey, Kim, that submitted the question for Eamonn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Honey, for your question. But let's get into the second part of the show, because this really, for our inspired listeners, is where Eamonn's going to talk about, before we went to break, he was talking about the logical mind and how to quiet the logical mind and the analytical mind. And so for our inspired listeners, this is a good time to take some notes because we want to talk about the science behind it, how to connect, what mediumship is, and the science behind it. So Eamonn, take it away.
Yeah, we have to remember that first and foremost, we are an eternal energetic intelligence or being. And we seem to have forgotten that the more that we have evolved and become essentially a physical being, and that's it. And when you're dead, and there's nothing beyond this realm, this dimension. But the moment that we start to surrender our logical mind and move more into the intuitive and then into the collective consciousness, that is where we have this other realm of reality. And that is where we coexist on the intuitive as a soul, but then also as a spirit. And every aspect beyond our physical self is a collective consciousness. And spirit and guides, as I saw that there was a question coming through about guides, everything feeds from that collective consciousness. And if we want messages from our own loved ones, like Honey did, and I'm sorry, Honey, that messages wasn't part of this presentation. And then the is, if we want to have information and connection with these sources, we have to move ourselves onto that same frequency of being as they are. Instead, we tend to hang around somewhere within our physical senses, waiting for them to give us some physical sign. And I believe that we just get low-level information from that. And the more that we can surrender the physical and stay more or deeper or richer within non-physical self as a soul, as a spirit, that's how we can receive the best guidance ever, but also how we develop as a spirit ourselves and then the respective skills that unfold within the soul or the spirit.
And Eamonn, real quick, talk about the attunement process. I know in your first book, The Color Bible, which is all about the living energy. It's a great book. Again, that was your first book, right? The Color Bible?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about the attunement process, and for the inspired listeners, just maybe walk us through what do you mean by the attunement process, and how do we get to where you're talking about? I know when I went to England, for the first couple of days, I was trying to just take it in, and how do I get there? I mean, what is this attunement process, and how do I quiet this mind that's always on the go and always thinking and always analytical, and how do I shut the darn thing up?
Yeah. Here's the technique that I give to people is I get them to just be in awareness. Okay, in a moment, I'm going to attune, or I'm going to spirit, or I'm going to meditate. Have your eyes open, look straight ahead, just get a focal point on the wall in front of you. And as you just keep focusing and focusing, like you're boring your eyes into that one particular spot, the moment you do that, the brain starts to quieten. And so it seems to then start muting that brain chatter. And before we know it, as we keep boring that, it's as though there is a buildup of energy going on at the back of the skull. And that tends to give us a more relaxed feeling. And as you are aware of that relaxation going on at the back of the skull, our eyes should automatically close. And the moment the eyes close, that's when our logic starts to quieten. And so then allow that relaxation feeling at the back of the skull to start gently going down your neck, down your spine, right the way to your toes. And when you have a good level of that, and it will take practice to get it to a really good level of attunement. And what happens is when you have a powerful relaxation, our mind quietens, our emotions become more still, and then our own physical nerve-ending body reactions also becomes relaxed. And before we know it, our attention isn't within our brain or within our emotions. It seems that we gain an extended awareness almost away from the body, and it seems to then keep expanding. So I recommend to people, keep expanding until you then gain this sense of fullness. And what we're doing there, we're now accessing us as a subtle energy, because that's essentially what we are. We are a subtle energy. And then we build this subtle energy to a fullness. And when we are full, that seems to then quicken and expand even more to that collective consciousness where we're able to be aware of spirit or archetypes or guides. And that is essentially the way that I teach people. But one other point in the fullness, what I also inform people about is when we are at our subtle fullness, I call it our voice of confidence. Our voice of confidence to trust energetic information and what we're connected to. So get to know your voice of confidence at this subtle level of fullness. And that will then keep you connected and opening up even more to deeper, richer, closer information with spirit.
And I think you said some key words there: confidence, trust. I know when I started on my spiritual path, trust was the number one thing. And, discipline, I think you talked about, this isn't just going to happen right away, but going and learning, like, for me, traveling to New Jersey to study and mentor with you, discipline and studying and growing and expanding. I think those are all key words for our listeners. And so for Honey that asked the question earlier, take Eamonn's exercise that he just discussed, sit back and see if your sister Elizabeth can come through based on what he was just saying. So it's a great exercise to start you on your path of connecting to spirit.
Yeah. Discipline is the key part. And you ask any person who meditates, ask any Buddhist who often are the experts in meditation. It takes many, many years to become so proficient within it. And the number one request for me as a tutor is, how do I get more confidence? And when I brought this technique as of the fullness and there's your voice of confidence, when I brought that in, it seemed to transform people immediately. And I'm not on about beginners, because a lot of my students are advanced students, or they're practitioners like you and you are, Mark. They're practitioners, teachers in their own right. And even they gain so much from that. Mm-hmm. But I know we keep mentioning honey, and I think there's a reason why we keep mentioning honey, and I think it is because Elizabeth wanted a private communication with her sister, and now she has the technique to do that.
Brilliant. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I love it. And that's how spirit works with us, right?
Yeah, certainly, yeah. And I hope that makes sense to Honey, based on maybe the personality of her sister.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, let's talk about metaphysics. And for our listeners that may not know what metaphysics is, kind of just give us an explanation of what is metaphysics and why would we work with metaphysics?
Okay. Do you want the definitive answer? Yeah. Well, because metaphysics, there are two principles of metaphysics, and the one is because they see metaphysics as something abstract or something ambiguous. So the two principles are, ultimately, what is there, or what is out there beyond this physical dimension to things, and the second principle is then what is it like. So our job is to give descriptions to non-physical sources, non-physical intelligence, and what it must be like then for the inhabitants, so to speak, or the nature of energy at this frequency that is above this physical dimension. So it's everything beyond this particular physical realm of things.
So everything beyond, and what is not seen or seen. Could it be seen, metaphysics?
It can, yeah. But essentially it is more of a subjective experience.
Okay. Well, that's the cue for our last break here on Inspired Living. We're going to be back in 2 minutes with our very special guest, Eamonn Downey. Stay tuned.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
And welcome back, everyone, to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Special guest Eamonn Downey calling in live, talking about metaphysics, talking about mediumship. And real quick, in the last section of the show, Eamonn, I want to get into your book. I want to talk about what is a modern medium, where do you see mediumship going in the future, and just kind of finish up your last thought on the metaphysics about what is seen, what is unseen, subjective, and just kind of finish that thought.
Let's finish the thought first. The reason why I said metaphysics can be seen objectively was through physical phenomena, which was prevalent in the latter part of the 1800s, right the way through to maybe a decade or two after the Second World War. Mm-hmm. And so it can be seen objectively. But as we have evolved, it seems that a lot of metaphysical information or phenomena, especially to do with mediumship, is now received in a more subjective way. And although people think, oh, but I see it, through their mind's eye, it is still seeing it subjectively. Objectively is where you see it with the naked eye. Mm-hmm. And a modern medium, to me, is as I'd said earlier, it really is about bringing back the essence of how spirit wishes it to be. And why I wrote this book, and it's been an ongoing labor of love, because I really believe that the misinterpretations, the fears, the trepidation of regarding mediumship is still too prevalent for me. And I felt if we gave it a more updated view, then people would become much more relaxed and see it for the natural phenomenon that it is. And so it is my personal experiential ideas of how in the past 30-something years that I have worked with spirit, and also how spirit interact with us, and really how they want to integrate with us, not only through our mediumship, but our everyday life as a phenomena and as a philosophy, because they want us to become exponents of current consciousness, because it's always evolving. And so the way they engage us and the way that we access them, it really has to be very much in the moment. It has 5 progressing sections in there, such as my spirit, seeking spirit, a sense of spirit, approaching spirit, as well as embracing spirit. And I begin the book with my own personal story because I wanted to be the template for the reader, as I consciously wanted to be a reflective presence really for them via my own personal experiences, to then through the book encourage them by putting them in the spotlight with philosophy and practical exercises as a platform to them, for they to directly experience a sense of their own spirit and the communicating spirit.
Now, I'm sure the book talks about also discipline and development. Does the new book, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, does it talk about the health of the medium, as far as I know? It
does.
Okay.
Yep, it does. And there's also a chapter how I'm looking at it scientifically as well. I work periodically with Professor Chris Rowe. He is head of psychology at Northampton University in England. He's working with me on my science week at the Arthur Findlay College in September. And there's a little bit in there about some of the experiments we are doing, but also some printed material that is starting to verify scientifically that we are in communication through our own higher consciousness. And because I think that is also part of the modern medium, that we have to try and get what we do verified in the scientific community, though I think it's very, very difficult to try and quantify scientifically a subjective experience.
Yeah, bridging that gap has gone for how many centuries between religion and spirituality and science, and trying to bridge that has always been the challenge. As far as the health of the medium, you know, and not being disciplined and learning and growing and doing this the right way, what are some health concerns that could happen for somebody that works with energy like you have? You've been doing this for 30 years. What are some, you know, things that could happen if we're not mindful of the work that we're doing with our body being an antenna, you know, connecting to spirit?
Yeah, we have to remember that when we're doing this work, we are in 2, possibly 3 different brain frequencies simultaneously. We are still in a very low way in a beta mode because we've still got a pulse, we're still physically functioning. But then we've moved into an alpha state to access us as a more energetic being. But then sometimes with mediumship, we're moving into a theta state where we're perceiving through the higher consciousness. And what we have to remember is that when we leave the physical, logical self, there is a quickening up of vibration. And so that quickening up is having a vibrational effect upon us physically. Hence, we have to surrender the physical self well. We've almost got to put it on standby so it is at rest, so it is not almost being buffered continually by this higher frequency that we've moved into. I describe it that if we're not, it's like being shook. And if we keep coming back into our more physical self, we activate then our endocrine system more and more. And that then starts to create exhaustion. And so exhaustion is probably the number one issue that we need to be aware of. Then if we keep exhausting it in a perpetual way, then the body starts to get symptoms in relation to that through the different glands within the endocrine system. I do talk about this in the book, and there is evidence really of what mediums, the illnesses that mediums go through who do this professionally. So we really have to work within the parameters, if you like, of our own energy levels.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I know exhaustion is one thing that I have gone through when I'm doing a reading, and you know, again, what I've learned from you and studying under you has helped me tremendously. So thank you for that. Now, Kim, I know we had another question come in real quick before we ended the show.
Yeah, so there's a question that came in that, we talk about spirit being there to help and support us, but are there things that we can do to help and support them on their own individual spiritual path as well?
Ooh, great question.
We've got to consider then what is Spirit's greatest desire. And their greatest desire is that we are the best we can be for ourselves. So the best way we can help Spirit is by being good to ourselves. And because that is their number one objective, and that is to try and give us as much support and guidance and insight as possible. So we help them by being the best that we can be. They don't need our help because they have eternity, God, the sacred at their feet, everything that they need. But remember that we, even though we're incarnate by the nature of our eternal spirit, we are still connected to the discarnate. So just know that our progression is their progression, and their progression is our progression. So we're back to that usual thing of there is no thing as separation other than through our logical mind or our physical senses.
And Eamonn, for our listeners, what is incarnate and discarnate for those that might not know that?
Yeah, incarnate are those who are in a physical body, and the discarnate are those who have passed away, that they have now shed the physical body and now they are. So either those in the physical world, still in a body, still living here, or as someone jokingly says, all the dead ones. But of course, they're more alive than we are.
We might be the dead ones, actually.
Well, I think there's some great truth to that. Yes.
All right.
So it looks like we're quickly approaching the end of the show here. Just want to make sure we'll first give our special thanks to you, Eamonn, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And making sure that our audience knows where to find you. So please make sure to either check online on our Facebook page. We've got all of Eamonn's information there, or you can simply go to eamondowney.com. There are books there that you can look into, his CDs, and also workshops all over the world. So there's something there for everyone. So thank you again, Eamonn. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today. I'm Kim Thalken, founder of Love First. If there's any way that I can help support you on your path through readings, healings, or hypnotherapy, please don't hesitate to visit me at lovefirst.info.
Yeah, and what a great show. Again, thank you so much, Eamonn, and I look forward to working with you and learning from you as always. And next week's guest, Kim, we have a very famous guest coming on for 2016 predictions.
That's right. Join us next week with Michelle White. We'll be taking questions. She's been voted as one of the top psychics in the world, so you don't want to miss this.
Yeah. So until next week, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. We'll see you next week, everyone. Namaste.